Welcome to another episode of Building the Future with Bill Fioravanti, where we speak with people shaping the economic and cultural future of our region. Today's guest is someone who's played a major role in the resurgence of the Sullivan County Catskills as a tourism and hospitality destination. Sims Foster, along with his wife Kirsten, is the co-founder of Foster Supply Hospitality, the company behind some of the Catskills' most distinctive boutique destinations, including the DeBruce, Canosa Hall, the Arnold House, and Hemlock. Over the past decade, their work has helped redefine what tourism in the Catskills can be, blending historic preservation, culinary excellence, design, and authentic regional experiences. But Sims's story is really about coming home. After building a career in hospitality in New York City, Sims returned to Sullivan County with a vision that the Catskills could once again become a world-class destination, not by recreating the past, but by building something new that celebrates the region's natural beauty, its history, and its communities. Now that vision is expanding beyond the Catskills. Sims and Kirsten are planning a massive redevelopment of 3 historic buildings on Grand Street in historic city of Newburgh, bringing their hospitality philosophy to the Hudson Valley and helping breathe new life into an important part of the city's historic downtown. Today, we're going to talk about Sims's journey and even touch on his and Kirsten's nonprofit, A Single Bite. So let's welcome to the show, Sims Foster. Sims, welcome to Building the Future. Thanks for being here.
Bill, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it for sure. I thought you may show up a little sooty, like with some dust on you. You're in the middle of demo here in Newburgh, but clean yourself up first. Thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't bring my dust into your
Okay.
nice, beautiful office here.
I appreciate it. But you're in the middle of everything there, right? You're really deep in the Newburgh project at the moment, right?
Yeah, I mean, we are done with interior demo and abatement, and they're running the services to the building, so we are full bore, and it's really cool to see 2 of the buildings, which had a lot of interior stuff, as you know,
Sure.
all cleared out, and yeah, take a picture of the what was the gym in the YMCA, and it's all cleared out now. It's really cool.
Amazing. I can't wait to check it out.
Yep.
I'm excited. I am. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's start. We want to talk about kind of the Sims Foster origin story.
Mm,
You grew up in Livingston Manor in Sullivan County, right?
that's
Little
correct. Yeah.
Manor, as I
The manor.
it's
Yep.
the Manor. But the Catskills obviously have a legendary tourism history. The Borscht Belt, as everyone knew about it, all the resorts, 500 hotels were here about entertainers like Mel Brooks and Jerry Lewis. How present was that legacy when you were growing up?
It's a great question. It was this. It was in the air, and by in the air, it was uh, stories from my grandparents and my father in particular, who really lived that era. Right. My father was a bellhop at the Waldemere Hotel and outside of Livingston Manor, and even went home from the army. He did a summer at Grossinger's, right, one of the most famous hotels. And my grandparents, were working at the hotels and around them during the boom era. So for me, I'd hear these stories and from them and from their friends, and I'd look around and think, that where is it?
Right, ancient history.
Yeah, it was gone, right? The only
Because that was my next question is when you grew up, a lot of that glory had faded. What did the region feel like to you growing up? What did what did home feel like in that way?
Well, I loved growing up there, but I loved growing up there not because of any of that stuff. I mean, it felt like there was a pride, but also this sadness that it didn't exist anymore. So these were you'd hear the stories, and it was very reminiscent, but very much about the past.
Right.
When I was growing up in Livingston Manor, and so it was in a downslide. Right, all of that had gone. Our industry had gone. It was Sullivan County had the most hotel rooms of any county in the country in 1960. Actually, had 62,000 hotel rooms
Unbelievable.
when you count all the big hotels and the small ones and the bungalow colonies. And it was the industry, and everything relied on it. The dairy farmers and the cattle farmers were selling to the hotels. Right?
Mhm.
And it's a story for another time about how that went from the height to within 20 years, basically a couple left that were struggling to survive.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's when I grew up.
Right.
So most of those old hotels were, my relationship with Grossinger's was driving by and having it look like Beirut, right?
Right.
Or I haven't been to Beirut.
Right.
But
Picture.
so yeah, so this dichotomy of uh, these legends, um, and what was around me. But I love growing up there because fish and to be outside and all the natural beauty that was the entire reason that tourism was established there in the late 1800s with the small boarding houses, and then it became the big hotels, after World War II. Um, the fundamental of why that existed, was still there, is still there, will always be there, same as ever. Leaving the city, leaving concrete, leaving heat, leaving congestion to get your senses put in order in nature.
Mm.
And that might take place in a small hotel or in a bungalow colony or in an 1800 room resort, right? And that is, those are different, but the reason people come to the mountains will always be the same.
Did you have any growing up again, did you have any connection to hospitality? Anything that maybe made you feel that you may wanna ultimately do what you ended up doing, coming back and being a purveyor, or any thoughts like that when you were younger?
No.
Okay,
Um,
smart guy.
well, it turns out not smart in the end,
Sure.
right? Yeah, my father and mother were school teachers. My grandfather was a truck driver and a maintenance man and a carpenter, and my grandmother was a hairdresser. She had a little
Mm.
shop on Main Street, right? So none of those things were, but I got my first job washing dishes when I was 14, and like a lot of us do, right, trying to make extra money, and
Sure.
I loved it, but I never really thought of it as a career until later. I got into it in New York City, and then it cycles around that somehow I ended up in the industry as a professional. Finally, that was the industry that was the reason that the Sullivan Catskills were successful,
Mhm.
and is now again the reason. So for me, it was a circuitous route in finding the skill set with no intention, but ending up bringing it home and doing something with it.
Okay, so speaking of bringing it home, let's talk about when you left. So next phase here is you going to New York City. Like a lot of young people, you were drawn to New York City. What drew you there originally?
Well, y I think that the narrative growing up, which happened in our town, but happens a lot in rural communities and other communities, is that if you wanna make something of yourself, you need to leave, and there's a lot of falsehoods in that,
Sure.
right? It's something that people tell, um, each other, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's, accurate, and quite frankly, we should want people to go sally forth and then come back home.
Sure.
But I went to school for music and, toured around as a musician for a while, and then
Trumpet player?
trumpet player, yeah,
Cool.
and then ended up in the city, and when I was 23, and ended up getting a job because I needed to pay rent that month, because I had no money, as the assistant maintenance man at, this nightclub in the meatpacking district, which, there's another story. Well, again, much longer, but I ended up, being the general manager of that club, and that opened all kinds of doors, and it was a very, serious job. So that's when I kinda went from the, dishwasher, line cook, bartender jobs into, like, there's really a possibility of, more permanent professional, and of course, it's a great industry to be in, especially when you're 24,
Sure.
25 in
Good place in New
nightlife
York.
in New York.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
for sure. What did you learn being in New York about what makes a destination special and attractive to people? What did you learn about hospitality in that regard?
Well, I learned the thing that I learned that I still take with me is that um, the story you're telling is so critical. Um, that in New York, it's a restaurant, which I got into, and then after that, hotels. So nightlife, restaurants, hotels, all of them. When you're in, you need to understand deeply what you're trying to tell your guest. Uh,
Even in New York City, if you're opening up just another hotspot, you think you need a story.
Yeah, because you think about the competition. I mean, you may not be telling the story of New York City as a destination, but you're telling about whatever it's meatpacking district or Soho or, you know, Upper East Side. Your location matters, but really what every part of your design, your menu, your uniforms, your flowers, your signage, your branding, that's at the height of the game in New York. Because if you don't have that, you're screwed.
Right
Yeah.
from the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a sense of theater, right? There's a sense of displacement of even going into a restaurant in New York where we've all been. I mean, if you go to Balthazar or, Minetta Tavern, or you go to Catch, you're even if it's just an hour, you're really kind of in this suspended story that someone said, "This is why you're gonna feel good here."
Mm.
So getting someone to feel good about that, then you amplify that when you go to the Catskills or Orange County and you say, "Well, how do you tell the story?" Especially with someone coming for the weekend, of a larger story, you incorporate all those businesses of creating a fabric for an entire experience.
Mm. Looking back on your time in New York, were there specific mentors or experiences that shaped how you think about hospitality even today?
Um, yeah, I came up in a time that, I'm smiling because there's a lot of news about Rene Redzepi, the famous chef. But I came up in the time where hospitality was, yeah, really hard, long hours, not the best environment.
Has that changed? Are you telling me that's
It's
changed?
definitely has changed. I think there's been a great awareness about that really doesn't work. Throwing pans in a kitchen at someone is abuse, right?
That's
And
how I grew up. I waited tables. I remember it was an Ecuadorian chef who, for some reason, did not like me. He threw things at me. He called me names. That's just what I will remember about growing up in hospitality.
yeah, and I think that's part of it. I think it's evolved as an industry, and I think that's really good. Luckily, I was in a lot of most of the environments I was with really smart people, and going all the way back to the nightclub that I ended up being general manager of, called Lotus. There's a particular partner there who, and this is in 2000, and he had 3 monitors, and he was looking at data of his business. Yeah, and you think nightlife, people are doing, and there's plenty of that, but now with it, and I was like, "That's the guy I wanna understand. What the hell is he looking at?" Right? And the modeling and understanding the business. So I got mentored by Will Regan, you know, uh, um, at that place, and then also we worked with a lot of great, chefs, a lot of whom have gone on to, have very public, you know, careers and on Food Network. So each one of those, I always pick something up. And so I've been very lucky to work with very talented people.
So when you're trying to think about a truly memorable hospitality experience, what do you think goes into that? And especially some things you learned in the city that really helps differentiate a restaurant or hotel from its competition out there. What are some of those elements that are really key?
Well, I think, as I said before, I think it starts with, the story you're telling.
Yep.
How are you conveying that through design? The most critical part that we do at Foster Supply, our company now, and that I think all of us can relate to, is the people, right? And the how they treat guests, and whether there's an honest care for the experience, and it's not transactional. I've been to some of the most expensive, beautiful places in the world that I wouldn't go back to because that wasn't there, and I've been to the most simple place in the middle of nowhere where that person, looked you in the eye and heard what you were saying and knew why you were there and did something special and small. Um, so the thing that I've ended up through experiences that were positive and experiences through negative, both in my professional life and learning from people and also from, being a guest, is, yeah, true hospitality is, got a big heart, and it's not just about processing and here's your table and here's your meal and here's this, but, the small moments that you can create, or the big ones, people will remember forever.
Mm.
And when they remember that, so the famous Maya Angelou, quote, right? People will not remember what you said. People will not remember what you did. People will remember how you made them feel,
Mm.
right? And I might have gotten a word or two wrong, but generally it's
I
right.
get the idea.
But it's true. Yeah. You and I, the moments we have, like the ways you feel around somebody is what you carry in your memory.
Right.
Um, not, uh, not so much anything else.
Right.
So,
So before we move on past the New York City chapter, one other important thing happened there. You met your wife, Kirsten
yes.
Harlow Foster.
Yeah.
Can you tell us just a little bit about her background and you meeting and
So Kirsten was smart, right? She's a lot smarter than me, which is a good, recommendation for the playbook for anybody, but,
Mhm.
yeah, Kirsten went to, Columbia University and, has a graduate degree from, SAIS and, in economics, and, worked at when I met her, was working at the New York Fed, the Federal Reserve, and had quite a great career there, including in '07, '08. Tim Geithner went down to Treasury and brought her with him to figure out um, how we save the American economy,
Sure.
and, that was an exciting time for her. But we met I knew her older brother, who we met randomly, and then we met briefly in the city, and then, he invited her to go with him to do some fly fishing in the Catskills, and, that was it.
Cool.
So,
Great.
it's been great, and, you know, she might love where we live, more than me at this point.
Wow, she certainly seems right at home
Yeah.
in Sullivan County in the Catskills. Of course, you're in a beautiful place, but she seems it's natural to her.
Yeah, and so lucky, right, that there's alignment on that,
All right.
because I'd love her no matter where we live, but the life that we've created and that she jumped in with both feet, and said, "Hey, this is gonna be home for me too," and, it's been great, and I think that she will often tell the story. It's the first time she actually worked in the private sector, was our first, little hotel, and now the
Hmm.
business we have, and it's taught her a lot about how much the private sector can change lives as well as the public, by creating jobs and creating a positive workplace for people and training and giving skill sets that they can use with us, but then you release them into the world and you see them move on. I think it's been a real positive thing for her as well.
Awesome. Great. Well, at some point, you and she decided to come back home, at least to your home in Sullivan County. When did that happen? What sparked that? Was that a new idea? Was it a dream that had begun haunting you for a while, or how did that come about? Deciding to go back to the Catskills.
So my brother and I had had some small restaurants in Livingston Manor, um, uh, prior to Kirsten, but it just happened that when I met her, a couple things. We had to close one of our restaurants, and then we had another two that were in a building that we owned that um, caught fire and burned to the ground.
Mm.
And at the same time, my dad, we knew that my father, who was a big figure in our lives, of course, but also in the town, was, he was at the end of a hard battle with cancer. So for the first time in like 14 years, my weekends, I'd work in the city and then I come up usually and work as work, work, work. I was like, all of a sudden I had some weekends. It was great because Kirsten and I, it was a much more normal existence than what she would have been in. And so I thought maybe that was it, actually, Bill. I thought this could have been a chapter and we closed the door and it was a great chapter and now I'm gonna get married and we're gonna, you know, start a new one.
All right.
But, the way it works with, my brain as well as with others who are in business and like to create stuff, um, I had this idea and the only way I can get an idea out of my head is to either do it or talk to someone who then convinces me that it's a really bad idea.
Mhm.
The latter is usually better. But I had this idea about buying a little inn, again, right outside Livingston Manor, some place that we'd known forever called Lonza's, and my dad, the rare time my mom would not make dinner at home, my dad would bring us up there for pizza and, well, he'd have beer, but, so I said, "I have this idea because there was this place in Argentina that we went." I was like, and this I was always trying to figure out the pro like, what would this place be? And it'd been for sale forever, and no one was buying anything at the time up there. And I kinda presented it to Kirsten thinking she as the risk-averse, solid economist,
Right. You're crazy.
think you're crazy, right? And, like, "Here's okay, I see," and she said, "Sounds great, why don't we do it?" I was like, "Oh."
Oh, do you know what you're getting yourself into?
So
Okay.
that was what became and is the Arnold House, and that was 12 years ago, and then, we kept our jobs in the city, and we did another small one, and then, said, "Okay, either we're doing this or, we gotta stop." And obviously we didn't stop. So we ended up doing 7 hotels in 9 years.
Incredible. So back in that genesis of coming back, what did you see or perceive in Sullivan that made you believe that a tourism revival could happen? What were you kind of seeing at that time?
Well,
Or were you not sure?
I wasn't sure. It's a great question. I wasn't I had a hypothesis, right? And the hypothesis was that nothing stays down forever, nothing stays up forever. It had been down for a long time. And my hypothesis was this: I loved the place. And if we could tell the story of why we love it, I thought there were other people that would love it, be attracted to the idea, and want to come, and then be very simple about what we are. One of the worst things that that places did, and I think Sullivan County did it for a while, is like, we're everything to everybody, right? We've got this, we've got that, we've got the other thing, we've got the other thing, but none of it's really the core. None of it's maybe quality enough. Like, yes, we have golf courses, but we're not Myrtle Beach. It's not a golf destination,
Right.
right? And I think places start to create a, and it's like then the experience doesn't live up to it, and you start to fade out. And for us, it was like, listen, you come, we're gonna give you some good food. Literally, we used to have nap timers. We still do. It's like, you know what you need? You need a nap, and we put the sand thing in there.
Ugh.
We give you permission to take a nap.
Mm,
We're gonna have a big bonfire out back. You're gonna have s'mores, and you're gonna go for a hike, and you're gonna go to these businesses, these small town businesses, right? Because part of what happened is that as Sullivan County got left behind, there's a charm that was kind of frozen, right? There's people walk down our main streets, and it feels very unique because it feels like it's from another time. And you fast forward now, and now a lot of those main streets are bustling, and you've been there, and they've got
sure.
great new businesses, and so that's what we did. We thought that maybe it would work, um, and we told this Four Season story because we love why we loved it. Right? Let's do an ice fishing derby. I love ice fishing as a kid.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff I just was sitting like, what did I like doing when I was 10?
But that's
Right?
part of the idea is to bring people back to a simpler kind of,
Simple.
just enjoy yourself, relax, unplug, unwind, sleep.
And when they show up and you've been honest and you've told a compelling story about why you love it and what's good about it, and they do that, and it matches their expectation, and now they go back and tell their friend, "I had the best time up in the Catskills,
Sure.
right?" Or, and what we're gonna do in Newburgh, kind of.
Mhm.
And it's not just about nobody wants to go to a hotel and have it be really just about the hotel unless it's some big resort. So then you start to incorporate the community around you, and that's a much richer story to tell.
Sure.
So we used everybody else and said, "Hey, we want to bring people." And when we did PR, it was like, "Okay, talk about us a little, but we need you to go see this person and that person and the alpacas and the breweries." It needs to be a comprehensive destination story, because who really cares about it? Just one hotel. Um, that's what we did.
So I've spent a lot of time in Sullivan County, special place to me, recreated there, worked when I worked for the Boys and Girls Clubs in the YMCA up there. And now my wife and I and our family, we've lived in Newburgh, city of Newburgh for I think 13 years now. They're very similar places I've noticed. All of Sullivan and Newburgh, same amount of people. There is, of course, everyone looking to the past, our glory days. There's a lot of holding on to that. And I've noticed that what happens with that is you always think that the past was wonderful. You seem to remember all the good things, and then the present is hopeless and this, that, and the other. But there's a lot of skepticism about a rebound, about a resurgence. And I'm curious when when you starting the Arnold House and then some of the other properties, was there a lot of skepticism, a lot of negativity, or did people believe in it and give you a lot of hope in that way? I was curious how the concept and your work with Kirsten together was being received in Sullivan County. I know you're you're heroes now. So no, really, that's the way people, really hold up what you do. But I'm curious in the beginning.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
And uh, I think back to the first little coffee shop that my brother and I opened in 2002, and people would open the door that we've known our whole life, and I can still hear them be like, "Good luck,"
Mhm.
right? Like, so you really have to be somewhat immune to that understandable pessimism, right? Because what's happened is, people, and also people come in and say, there's going to be a change, and it doesn't happen. And people invest their hope. And when you invest hope and it doesn't come to fruition, you start to build protective armor.
Mm.
And that's what happened in Sullivan County. That's definitely what happened in Newburgh, is that, and then the narrative starts to be, people's, and I hear it too, uh, right now, is, this kind of, there's a fear, and they want to believe in it, and they want to believe there's a way to progress and go into a new chapter. But as you said, everything about their recent experience shows that that's a hard place to invest. So, what we did in Sullivan County is we said, well, we're going to do this, and as soon as, and we're going to tell the story to people that have no idea where we are. That's the great thing about a hotel business, is that I wasn't marketing to the people in Livingston. Man, they're not going to go to the hotel. The restaurant, yes, but they're not going to go to the hotel. I'm marketing to somebody sitting in Brooklyn or Jersey City or St. Louis, and they're the ones that if pique their interest, you can get them there, and that's really going to be the same game plan for Newburgh.
So you started with the Arnold House, and then you pretty quickly started to add a number of other hotels. Was that the game plan from the beginning, to develop a network of hotels, or how did that happen?
No, I mean, what we wanted to do was, we had this idea, and this goes to your question of, like, with any business, but especially in an area that, just because you think you can tell a story, like, it doesn't mean until someone comes and it's sustainable. What we saw with the Arnold is that it was working, and then it switches. Then you feel like you found something that nobody else has yet. And so that's when we opened a second hotel, and then the inflection point was, this is now not something you can just, the 2 of us could do with a small team on, for 36 hours every weekend. So then it was the full transition to, and that's when I said, "Well, now it needs to be bigger to be able to sustain over life." So, I don't think it's the worst thing. I always counsel people, like, don't give up your day job. Like, it's good to get a paycheck. If you can figure out a way to start something, and have that security, it's not the worst thing in the world.
I didn't realize you did that at the beginning. Makes perfect sense. But you both held on to your jobs when you were starting the Arnold House.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hey, food and culinary experiences seem to be an important part of what you're doing. So I assume it sounded like some of that came from New York City and what you witnessed there. But tell us about that. Like, how important is food to defining a place?
well, I think it's probably the hub of the whole thing, right? Expressing, again, I keep using this word story, but a sense of place through food, um, is is critical. It's critical to the guest experience. And, my experience with, again, with chefs, and, my job, um, when we opened the Arnold House, and for about a decade before that, was to concept restaurants and bring in, chefs to work with, and I was flying all around. I did it for hotel groups. So, I got to work with, Jeffrey Zakarian and Marcus Samuelson and David Burke and Enrique Olvera, and, like, these amazingly talented people, and many, many others, Dale Taldy, so we had a lot of fun. So that really is my background. So it was also just gonna be, I wouldn't, it was also part of the inherent plan for us. But to create these small, full scale, full service little hotels was really, really cool. And also then these restaurants serve the full-time community as well. So it's good for business, and it's good. Everybody likes to go to a hotel restaurant where you feel like that's where everyone knows everybody, like it's Cheers,
Right.
right? There's the warmth, like, that's a real sense, like, yeah, it's not a sense of place, like, it's the place, because everyone in town comes here, is a lot of the goal in some ways. And we've got different concepts throughout, and, including the De Bruce, which, has been nominated as the standing restaurant in the country for James Beard 2 years ago. And
It's
that's
just incredible. I
it's
mean,
crazy.
where is it exactly? Willomac? Is that how you say Willomac? It's a
It's in De Bruce, but it's on the
place a
Willow,
lot of people don't know exists.
yeah,
You've got one of the top restaurants in the country.
in the country, yeah, the, Willowimock River.
Willow-Emac.
Yeah,
Willow-Emac. Okay.
Willowimock River, and it's just a 12 room, but, it's really special. We do 9 or 10 or 11 courses a night, depending on what the guys in the kitchen.
Wow.
And I say guys right now because it's all guys, but we had a guy on before. But yeah, it's and that was a very intentional thing that I wanted to do, but also I wanted to see if we could establish that we could be respected as a culinary destination. And through hard work and some really talented chefs that I brought in, we were able to do that.
Another hallmark of the Foster Supply hospitality experience seems to be the way you connect your guests with the outside community and just the natural outdoors as well. You touched on that a little bit, but can you talk about what some of those experiences are and how that really works and adds to the overall experience?
Well, I think with the cats, right, why do people come to towns? They go to hike. We do a lot of intro to fly fishing. So people want to come that aren't necessarily, avid yet. They just, want to come in and spend 3 hours with a guide, teaches them the fundamentals. We send them to alpaca farms. Like there's an alpaca farm that through us, I mean, they've done a great job. Like we've helped to build their business. Like we send lots and lots of guests to Buckbrook Alpaca.
Goats as well, right?
We have goats on site. Actually, the Arnold House. This is the fourth year. This tomorrow. It's corny and we love it, but it's good. The weekend is called Alpaca Your Bags, and they actually bring the alpacas to the Arnold House, and we're gonna have a big party in the barn, and make pizzas in our wood-fired oven, and you get to hang out with the alpacas, and so it's those things that are very simple that we program, and you have to we do a lot of programming, right?
Because
Because
there's something to that stuff. Like we did before I heard that you were doing it at Hemlock, I think you have the goats, right?
yeah,
I went with family to Ulster County and we went a goat hike and there was something about it that just made you I don't know, it was a reconnection to nature or what it was, but it was a really like cathartic kind of feeling and experience. So then I heard you guys were doing it. I was like, oh, it makes perfect sense. You guys know exactly how to master that stuff. It was there's something to it though.
we have a goat herd, yes.
Yeah,
They can, you can't it's hard to explain to somebody, and it's understandable why they're a little, skeptical, but after 45 minutes and they come back through the woods, we do a goat hike every morning at 10 AM, and I haven't met anyone who wasn't affected. They're like, "I don't know what just happened,
it
but
really is. There's
me and
something.
these goats and walking in the woods somehow changed my spirit,"
Yeah.
right? And we have Megan, who's our goat lady, and her love and passion, right? That's the thing too. Again, the humans that are involved with it that can convey what they're passionate about is super important.
I'm excited to get into Newburgh, of course,
Yeah,
as you can imagine. But before we do that, I do want to touch on a single bite. So you guys, how long ago did you form create the organization, a single bite?
yeah. So the real answer is that Kirsten and I did the first single bite uh, real food course in Livingston Manor, where I went to school in 2017.
Okay, you've been doing this a while then.
Yeah, but the organization as it is now in its maturity with Audrey Garrow, our executive director, who
Sure,
was 2019. So
2019.
we did it for several years with just us, and now it's become a whole thing.
Sure, it sure is, I'd say, and it's really the scope is incredible, the scale and scope of what you're doing. Just for the audience's sake, a single bite really is looking to address food insecurity in Sullivan County. People don't realize it's like the second least healthy county in the state. I know it's been ranked for a while, so a lot of things going to Sullivan 180, a number of initiatives trying to fight that. But tell us exactly what a single bite is and what your mission is.
Yeah, I mean, you gave the macro pretty well. There's now 3 components, but before we get to those, Sullivan we were 61 out of 62, which is very good.
Mm,
We're now 57,
great
so we're moving up.
progress.
Yeah, um, and that's for a bunch of reasons, but we started out as a just talking to kids about the difference between real food and processed food, and that's our real food education program. We are in every school district in Sullivan County. We get to every 7th grader now, which is
Great.
so
Is that the sweet spot? Seventh grade to try and
7th grade
this
is we
conversation.
focus. It's really worked well, and then we have other programs, as they go, so we stick with them. It's important to us that we stick with them in different ways, and they're always getting reminded about the core message, which is you have a choice about what you put in your body, and we're not being judgmental, and just do you know the difference between processed food and real food, and what the value and detraction are between those 2 things, and be surprised, or maybe not, how many 7th graders don't know that.
Sure.
And that's the generational change, right? Education is how you change things long term. We also have the meal program, which started in COVID, and
Right. The focus was on education, right?
correct.
Was it COVID that brought about the meal delivery program?
Well, we couldn't go to schools,
Right.
and I had a bunch of kitchens that I had to shut down, and we didn't lay anybody off, and so I had a bunch of hands, and, that's when we rallied, and started the program, not knowing that it would continue on, but fast forward now, we just delivered our 240,000th meal,
How much?
240,000
240,000th meal you've
of
delivered
real food,
in Sullivan
scratch
County. Wow.
cooked food that we deliver to the family, right? Because if you're struggling with food insecurity, you're making choices you're in a fragile environment. Electric is a huge deal. You're paying your electric bill or your oil bill, or you're getting food, or you're putting gas in your car. So that now is a permanent part of what we're doing. And then we're also a farm to school. We're in 3 school districts right now, working with the food service directors to get them food that we get from the farmers and process in our kitchen to the form that they need to get it to the kids.
And now you have a new addition. Is it cold storage? Is that a facility? Does a single bite own that? Is it
We lease
how does
what was the well, we are the Catskills food hub now, so we've merged and we're the board, for both Single Bite and Food Hub, which we took over a facility in Liberty, New York, with, built a new kitchen, and wanna thank everybody who's participated. It's been humbling to see the support from so many people who a lot of people give, as you know, here,
sure.
and, so very
In Sullivan as well. You gotta find those people, but there's some really deep givers for
deep
sure.
deep givers, and, it's become a community effort, and again, everyone's working together. You mentioned Sullivan 180, they've got their part. When the circles cross, it's great that everyone says, "Hey, let's get together and make sure we're all marching in the same direction." Um, so it's been great. So it's a singlebite.org if
I
anyone.
just wanna ask that if people wanna learn more, they wanna contribute.
Yeah.
A single bite.org.
Singlebite.org, because our education program starts with, we bring a chef in the first thing, and we make single bites, and the only rule is you got to try the food, and take a single bite, and then it's a blast, and the kids, we then have conversation, and so yeah, 1 in 5 kids in Sullivan County is food insecure.
Incredible. Well, we really commend you for what you and Kirsten are and your followers, and you've got Audrey Garrow is a wonderful executive director. We all know and love her, so that's great. So I certainly hope that the audience picks up on that
Yeah,
inspiration.
thanks for bringing it up.
For sure, for sure. So let's talk about Newburgh. Let's
Yeah,
finish on that. Near and dear to my heart. You and Kirsten are planning a multi-million-dollar investment there. I'm not sure if we can talk about the number, but it's a big number.
it's a big
It
number.
really, really is. It seems like it's on a different scale from what you've done, even in your projects.
It seems, because it is.
It
Yeah.
is. So, right. Okay. For sure. Tell us how that opportunity came about in Newburgh. You weren't looking for Newburgh, were you?
Wasn't looking
Right.
for Newport.
For-
I mean, I think you were. This is so long ago, but I'm pretty sure you were there the first. Somebody who's a part of the community, Naomi, who has a house at the community in Newburgh, and kind of knew our properties, reached out with an email and said, "Would you ever think about?" And invited us down, and kind of toured around Newburgh and saw these 3 buildings. And
just to be clear, a Masonic temple, a Grand Temple, right?
correct,
That,
yeah,
that, that matters. The YMCA
correct,
and the former American Legion.
bingo. You got all
3 beautiful buildings right next to each other on historic Grand Street, really, with the Hudson River over the shoulders.
historic buildings, and all played. You think about what those buildings, the role they played for the multiple generations in Newburgh, which I hear amazing stories about. Like, my dad, my grandpa, and I used to run in the track, and we did this. So, but the buildings had, yeah, uh, deteriorated, as far as use, right? And the county owned them, and but I walked through, and again, from go back to what I said about Kirsten with the Arnold House. On the ride home from that visit, I said, if you got to just stop me, because I'm already programming these buildings. And there was something about Newburgh, right, that resonates with our perspective, which is, there's a challenge there, and it's a community that's great. You love it, I love it as it is, but I also see more potential,
For sure.
right, for many different ways. And I'm sensitive that sometimes you can say, well, it's people have this negative. Like, we have a house in Newburgh. I love spending time there as it is,
Mhm.
but I also want it to be more, right? Because it would be disingenuous to say that there isn't plenty of opportunity in the city of Newburgh. So it's about these buildings. It's about doing business in a place where that impact can perhaps have a greater bandwidth on the people around you. And much as we've been saying, hospitality, we're going to be telling a story of Newburgh to an audience that maybe doesn't even know anything about Newburgh.
right?
And if you tell that positive story and they come and they have then they go back and you start this cycle. Hospitality, just by its nature, has the ability to provide an outsource, expeditious, ability to grow an economy, just because you're bringing people in, they've made their money elsewhere, they're dropping it into your economy, they're going back out to, and they become advocates for at least that experience, whatever they had, and they start telling more and more people.
Tell us a little bit more about the vision for this, I'll call it a resort on Grand Street.
Yeah, people think of a resort as kind of, specific with a golf course and all that.
Right.
It's not that, but it's
Urban resort in this case.
yeah, it's got the makings of that. I think it's got 74 guest rooms. It's got 3 different restaurant components, and 2 spectacular, meeting and event and ballroom spaces that, each can sit, up to 250 people. And then we've got a spa facility that's going in the basement, and yeah, and then a lot of other fun little rides on the amusement park, as got a little flower shop that's going in there, and, I love the culture of barbers in Newburgh, and so
Mhm.
classic idea of having a hotel, barber, and
Oh, I love it.
so all these different things that the guests will love, but also hopefully that people will, come in that front door for other reasons that maybe live down the block.
Sure. Now you're dealing with 3 properties that, as we said, frankly, they were rotting for years. I mean, they're off the tax rolls. A lot of people don't realize that, not generating any property tax revenues, but they're older, aging buildings. So that comes with inherent challenges. Have you encountered any surprises when it comes to that? Or I know you're getting through demo, so maybe some surprises are coming, but
Well,
has it been pretty smooth in that regard?
yeah, it's been pretty smooth. I think we were lucky because, Orange County owned them right prior to us,
Right.
and, having, the county own them, they have the ability for their maintenance team and their engineers, kept they kept the roofs from leaking, and which is the most important thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, the interiors had fallen to different parts of disrepair, but the structures of the building, these things were built at a different time.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
so yeah, we haven't had too many unexpected issues,
Good. But knock on wood a couple
yeah,
times.
yeah, now we're full on, so.
Yeah, terrific. When the project is complete, what's your hope that it will contribute to the city of Newburgh? What's your hope and vision for that?
My hope is that it gives jobs, which it will, that's not a hope, right? We wanna hire as many people as we can that are, in Newburgh, and create a real local density. We're creating a lot of jobs in construction, right? And using as much as we can, and from contractors and subcontractors around uh, the county and the region. And my hope is that it's exceptionally busy when we open, to be absolutely fair,
Sure.
because there's a high amount of risk in any business, and this is the first hotel to be built in the city of Newburgh in multiple
For
generations.
sure.
And I hope that, we really can create this super interesting idea about what it looks like to come to Newburgh, deliver on that promise, and then have everyone that loves and cares about Newburgh, whether they've been there their entire life or part of their life, or they just got there, get a sense of pride that, hey, this is something that we can look at, that we're feeling good about and moving forward, and that it will help spawn other people potentially to say, there's viability here, and I was thinking about it, now maybe I'm going to do, right? Because um, we want to see a lot of other, and there is a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of housing development, a lot of good things that are going on in the planning works and around the city.
I want to ask you one last thing. You are in the headquarters of the Orange County IDA, so
Oh,
we do provide tax incentives. Yeah, I tricked you. I got you here. But you've never asked for a pilot or tax incentives for your projects in the past in Sullivan County, but you did in Newburgh. It was important, and you got a pilot through the Newburgh City IDA. How important was that? You talked about risk and all that, which is really the basis of it. But why was it necessary? How important were those incentives to kind of putting the financial pieces together for the project?
If for our project, they were critical. Um, and you're right. At that, I never, at Sullivan County, the County of Sullivan IDA is a very well run, strong organization, as
Sure.
you know. And we had not seen that we needed to when we applied for this one. Since then, just to be clear, too, we there is one project in Sullivan, our latest, that we did go through the IDA on. Um, and we were encouraged by the IDA to do it. What the IDA did for our project is that anybody going into business, right? You have to weigh the risks and the rewards, and you have to have a profile that makes some sense, that there's a path of success, um, financial success. That's what business work. It's America. It's capitalist here, and it's up to that person, in this case me, to say I see that path. But here's the things along the way that are the riskiest, and one of those is that you take buildings that have never paid taxes, right? You're going to put them on the tax roll, which we did when we bought them, so that's good. New City of Newark is getting more money, but the risk was with the day that we finished construction, that the tax bill would be so big that it would actually potentially, who knows, but potentially um, be a detriment to us succeeding, right? Uh, and I don't think the taxes are pretty high in Newburgh.
There.
So, and I'll tell you them even more. Even if I didn't care about that, I think it's fact that gets lost is that um, we have to go to banks, and if maybe I'm okay with with a risk profile that's there, but banks don't like risk.
Right.
And so the project doesn't happen unless you can get financing. And you can't get financing unless, like anybody, right? You have to go to the bank. If no one's gone through this, you go to the bank to get a mortgage on your house, right? Banks want to have security. They want to understand that they're going to get their money back, that the risk profile of giving you that money to buy the house is in a realm that's going to work. It's the same with business in a much more complicated way. So what the IDA was able to do was say, is better than anyone, is that, yeah, you're going to pay taxes, but there's going to be an escalation to get to that full tax number. And then when you can go to a bank and they say, well, what are you going to do about the taxes? You say, well, we're working with the IDA and we have this pilot. And they go, great. Okay. Well, we can check that particular box is checked on that risk profile. Oh, and then there's a lot of other ones, right? It's not the cure all for, it's cures, it helps in one aspect of a development project.
Sure.
But it's an important one, and it was an important one for us to have the city of Newburgh, and frankly, we had the city of Newburgh's IDA, and the city council's support. They wanna see this project happen.
Absolutely.
They wanna see the jobs created. They wanna see the construction jobs created, and, they were very supportive.
I give that IDA a lot of credit. The city of Newburgh IDAs really incentivized a number of critical housing project. Yours is critical. I mean, projects that really can transform the landscape of the city, no doubt about it. So
Yeah.
I give them a lot of credit. And it's always this business we're in. There's a lot of criticism. There's a lot of naysayers, a lot of people that don't understand it, but they kind of faced that criticism and did the right things. And I think it's proving, because you didn't have the easiest time getting financing to get together and everything. As you said, you needed all the help you can get. And to me, what these incentives can be looked at is an investment on behalf of, say, the IDA or the community without ever writing a check, just giving you a short-term savings. And in your case, during a pivotal time where you're trying to get rooted as a boutique hotel in downtown Newburgh, post-COVID, it's not easy. And you need that kind of cushion. And to me, it's not just to help the project get open, but for you to get rooted and be successful and be sustained, really. That we want sustained success. And it should be a partnership in a way in that regard.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. I think that's the way that they approach it. And along the way, because I'd never done this before, right? I learned a lot about it as well, and I think that IDA is just it's an organization, and it doesn't every project should be weighed, right? And you have to go through a lot of things to prove that you deserve and need these benefits, right? There's a lot of metrics that you don't just come in and say, "I'd like this." Like,
It's not a rubber stamp deal.
no, no, and I
Think
think
that it
I think
certainly is not.
I think there are projects, my personal opinion, that that come to, whether it's your IDA or City of Newburgh, so that they should maybe say no to, right? You
Right.
do that test and, if, but for, right, all this stuff. But there are projects, and I think ours is kind of a really, uh, you know, probably on the pendulum of the side of like, yeah, this is a great project and all the metrics work and we all want this. We all feel pretty good about it. And I always felt great that like the city of Newburgh has made more money already before we started. Those buildings were never on the tax roll.
Exactly.
And just by me saying I'm going to do this project and buying them so that we could do that, we're already contributing to the city around us.
For sure. Sims, incredibly, we're out of time. But it's been great. I really appreciate you coming on. We appreciate hearing about your story and all your insight, especially in hospitality. You guys are really, you're creating the future. You're building the future. It's exactly why we're here. So we appreciate that. Wish you all the best of luck, especially in Newburgh. Will you come back when the project's really rolling, construction such, and
No,
come
no,
back, give
you're
us an
gonna
update?
come. You're gonna come. We'll do it there.
We'll do it. That's great.
We'll do it there.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks for joining us on Building the Future. Continue to download our episodes wherever you get your podcasts, but join us next time for the next episode of Building the Future. I'm Bill Fioravanti. Thank you. Have a great day.